last time I said, we've broken it up into easy bite-sized portions for you guys to enjoy. And as such, we will jump into the very first one that we call Around the World. Around the world, news from around the world. I think we've seen this as an ongoing, I don't want to call it a trend, but we've seen it happen numerous times for years now. And it's a sad reality that we see now, which is the presence of the online keyboard racist warriors, the anti-Semitic...
anti-Semites, anti-Semitic people, and
all around
bigotry, that kind of
that we're seeing online, and it's really sad to see. We've noted the backlash that the Brentford striker Ivan Toney received this last week after their triumph in the Premier League. And as a bold move, I do credit Ivan Toney for calling out these trolls. What he has done, we've seen on social media, is that he's actually highlighted these people's names, their profiles. He's published that on his page, named and shamed, and it's one step in the right direction. But I think that, all the responsibility shouldn't have to sit with the victim. We need a lot more interaction. We need a lot more help and action from these companies. We need social media out around the world, news from around the world. I think we've seen this as an ongoing, I don't want to call it a trend, but we've seen it happen numerous times for years now. And it's a sad reality that we see now, which is the presence of the online keyboard racist warriors, the anti-Semitic...
anti-Semites, anti-Semitic people,
and all around
bigotry, that kind of
that we're seeing online, and it's really sad to see. We've noted the backlash that the Brentford striker Ivan Toney received this last week after their triumph in the Premier League. And as a bold move, I do credit Ivan Toney for calling out these trolls. What he has done, we've seen on social media, is that he's actually highlighted these people's names, their profiles. He's published that on his page, named and shamed, and it's one step in the right direction. But I think that, all the responsibility shouldn't have to sit with the victim. We need a lot more interaction. We need a lot more help and action from these companies. We need social media outlets to come to the party. I mean, it's so crazy to think that racist, discriminatory comments are allowed and seem to pass through these so-called filters that these social media platforms have up. And yet, I'll take YouTube as an example, where any kind of copyright infringement that appears is taken down swiftly.
Quick, fast.
I mean, like
so
snap
fast,
of a finger, and it's done. Your videos no longer available. You can't
no negotiations. That's it.
Exactly. It's almost an act now, ask questions later. So why is it that we can't have that same approach to discrimination and essentially online bullying that we see so much of
on all these different scales?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Where are the leaders? Where are the personnel that are here to act? I think that's something that I'd like to see a lot more of. And then I think the next question would be, once we've identified these perpetrators, what is the right course of action to take? How can we successfully punish and, to an extent, educate people? I think there may be an element of ignorance to it.
I was going to say,
but that can only be stretched so far. So what are the measures that you think we should put in play in order to combat a situation like this? That's my first question for you.
So I actually didn't think about the copyright thing as you mentioned it now. That's a really, really valid point. It's crazy, man, like how quickly, I mean, we haven't been copyrighted for anything as yet because we OG like that. But I've seen it's quick, fast, man. And it's crazy how when it comes to money or capitalism, how, you know, like how quickly that can be protected, you know, how quickly something can be done. And with technology at the point that it's at, I find it difficult to believe that there's no filter kind of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, you know, system that's in place. I mean, I guess the one thing that one needs to bear in mind is like, it's a little bit more, copyright is a little bit more straightforward in that if I use something that doesn't belong to me, it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to, how would you say, like filter or to determine whether something is copyrighted or not. True. On the other hand, sometimes, and this might sound like a soft excuse, but I think perception comes into play as well. Because I know you obviously have reporting buttons and etc. where you can report specific tweets, posts on all these platforms. And then it says we will take this under consideration or this will be reviewed, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's extremely blatant that it's bigotry, racism, sexism, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's subtle. So I guess the one argument would be like, okay, but how do you navigate? Like, at what point, where do you draw the line, right? And this also brings into play the age-old argument is free speech, right? So how limited can this be, or how limited should it be, right? And so I think that's the kind of tricky semantic part, but I refuse to believe that there's nothing that we can come up with the stuff that we come up with in terms of monetizing things. I refuse to believe that there is nothing that can be done, right? I firmly refuse to believe that.
100%. And in the world of AI, when you're having technology that's able to, wow, I can write a full-on copy by giving it one word, and from that one word it's able to research in itself. Like
create art. There's that AI making
search,
art.
Platform, and give me results from that.
Yes.
It's able to have technology act in that fashion. How is that we can't use even elements of that into cracking
And I'm
down
also
on things
finding that these big companies are not really answering the questions like that you and I are asking right now, right? So Mr. Mark, I know you're listening right now, so answer our questions, fam. We'll put an Instagram question for you in specific. No, I'm just joking. But honestly, I'm finding that there's a lack of answers. So even in the Ivan Toney case, Meta has said that they are unable to do anything more than block this person's account because of some semantic along the lines of they can't take action because, if I'm not mistaken, the correct channels of reporting were not followed. Or something like that. So it's kind of like, but it just seems so weak. Like that just, I don't know. But then also, like, what do you do, right? So you ask like about punishment. Like, I agree, ignorance, especially, it's definitely present. But then what do? You send someone on like this is racist course, you know, like how do you kind of like, what is the solution? It's tricky in that sense.
There needs to be, maybe people don't see the end product or the consequences of action and words. So maybe by tweeting these racist tweets, thoughts, whatever it is, online, I, as the perpetrator, I'm now in the shoes or in the fingers of a perpetrator, would think, cool, that's it. I've put it out in the world. Banter, cool. I could get a few likes on this. End of story. And they don't see the impact that this might have. I think maybe introducing some case studies, having accounts of victims that explain kind of the plight that they're in and the emotional headspace that they are currently in as a result of comments like this. And
sorry, what about something like, you know, like how now you have to register, like in South Africa you had to RICA, remember you had to register. I know with online betting sites you also have to give some form of identification in order to draw your finances or something like that. How would you feel if you made a Twitter account that you would have to attach it Oh, okay, but now this also brings the Popeye Act into it, and also then it's also data protection. So I guess it gets tricky. But what about something like that? Like more accountability. You can't just go make a ghost email account and just what about something like that? Or is that too drastic?
Yeah, no, I'd definitely say that's a brilliant idea to attach a physical person to an online persona.
So they can
alias,
answer.
whatever you want to call
it's
it.
quite
Exactly.
easy
so there
to
is
have to
some
answer.
level of accountability there. So if I know that Tyler 456789 at whatever is responsible for Tyler, I know point of call. Cool. Once I've undergone this review stage, so once I've reported you, the authorities from the various social platforms then match that to your personal account, and action is taken from there. I think once you remove the facelessness of an online alias or profile, that's when there's a lot more accountability to people's actions, and when you're faced with this person. So if I'd imagine like it might sound silly as an idea, but you have AA. You have a group, you go into a meeting, you're sitting with people who are facing a struggle. So for the people that literally cannot comprehend their actions, you have almost like a community service type program where you're sitting with fellow online perpetrators, racists, bigots, whoever it may be, in a room or on an online meeting, whatever it is, and you listen to accounts of action, consequence. I put both on the table. It's no longer just, cool, I sent out a tweet, I wanted to be funny, and that's the end of the story. I now understand how far on my actions kind of the ripple effect of my actions. So I see, okay, once I had called Ivan Toney X,
the things that I did, whatever,
I know what that meant for him, what that drove him to the kind of headspace he's in, and I need to take accountability for my actions. And you have to do X amount of time. Say you have to do 3 months worth of this course in order to understand. And then at the end of this course, you need to present a case as to how you've learned from this experience, what you've learned, how you're going to implement it, and what your takeaways, and almost have almost a buddy system. So you then become the next sponsor for someone else that's been convicted or prosecuted for a similar crime.
Look, I mean, everything we're kind of talking about almost sounds quite idealistic in a sense, because it actually, I mean, I guess that's why we're talking about it, right? It's quite complicated. We wish it didn't exist, but it does. It's quite complicated to try and come up with a solution, and we're certainly not going to do it in 20 minutes of episode 6 of The Big Vibe. But I think, like, the important thing is, like, it's obviously causing a lot of problems, and I'd say one of them even, like, so Ivan Toney posted a screenshot of these direct messages from this person. He posted it on Twitter, and as a result, a lot of people then jumped up, firstly in support, like, oh, well, up to you, Ivan, etc., etc. Then a lot of people also obviously hopped into that guy's DMs and then started like also then returning abuse one way or another. And it kind of, the danger of it is that you're starting to lead towards like this kind of mob justice kind of thing. But let's be honest, mob justice wouldn't exist if there was the proper channels of
policing of
mob justice only exists because people feel underrepresented or unable, or they're feeling unanswered. So again, it's a very, very tricky conversation. How do you toe the line between, then protecting your data? Because I don't know if I necessarily want to be giving my ID, especially after you watch things on Netflix like The Great Hack, where you see how our data has been exploited. Yes, I've read all the terms and conditions, which no one really actually reads, but we know our data is being, exploited. There's the Great Hack, and then the other one is the the social dilemma. You actually really see what's happening with our data. So, you know, that's the counter argument to having to RICA, FICA, whatever you call it, or having to register, attach yourself to a profile. So, you know, it is a difficult thing to manage, but I think, and I often say this, I think the fact that these conversations exist on platforms like this, to however many people listen to us, whether it's 100, 1,000, not yet, maybe one day. But, you know, the more people that are having these conversations, the more we bring this to the forefront and the more change can happen.
That's what we ultimately want, man. And it starts, but be the change you want to see in the world. As a small act that can make a world of difference. Because we know, I think everybody would be, if they could be honest with themselves, they'd know a few people in their circle that have some questionable remarks about things, questionable opinions, and it's their responsibility to toe the line there. Call them to call them out on it. So, you know, Tyler, I don't like.
I don't know about that one.
It's. I think because we can put all the responsibility in the hands of authorities, but I think we also have to look at ourselves as individuals, as communities, as social groups, and we have to start somewhere. So that small act or the small idea, I think, could go a long way in kind of trying to
remedy the situation, at least assist, change, whatever you want to say. You know?
Just implement some kind of change.
But no, for sure.
Let's keep an eye out on this, see what is done and how much is done. Because there needs to be some indication of change. There needs to be
taking the knee. Taking the knee at the beginning of a football match is no longer cutting it. It's just a bit of a...
What more?
A bit of a gimmick almost. It turned into no room for racism on the armbands. Like, all that stuff is cute, you know, and it was a cool initiative. But actually, we need to see tangible... we need tangible action, you know,
that's
for sure.
That's essentially what we're hoping for. But I think that's a great point to put a pin in it. Let us know on the various channels what you guys think. How can we try and combat this? Is it our responsibility? Should all the responsibility be in the hands of the platform owners? Punishment, what do you think is fair punishment for online abuse? And if you're going to be hopping out now at the end of this section, please remember, do all the things, you know, like it, comment, share, subscribe. But really, we are interested to hear what people think. Like Tev said, what do you think about punishments? What do you think? Whose responsibility is it? You know, like these are the questions, these are the conversations. You know, that's why we're having them. Exactly.